Well, he already told me he wants to kick me out and run the firm in the next 5 years. So do we really want to put that out there in the media?
Just for the record, I said no such thing.
He didn't say it. He implied it.
It was in my eyes.
It's like, you're going down, old man.
This place is mine. Change my name to White.
You go right ahead.
That's a stalking charge right there.
No, some days, $20 and it's yours.
Fair enough.
Yeah, like some days I might be okay with that.
Yeah. One rule: don't pound the table. You can hands good, but this is this kind of stuff. It communicates the vibration all the way through.
Makes sense.
It's called the Dan Owolabi rule, so he doesn't follow it, but we try and enforce it all the time.
Okay.
Okay, so do we want to just do an interview instead of basic business advice? Okay, just so you have content. Okay. All right, Hunter, then we'll just keep it casual.
All right.
You and I are just going to talk.
Cool. I'm
And
dressed wrong.
I think this is going to be good because I don't know if I know all of the history going back about how you got to where you are now.
Yeah.
So, where's a comfortable place for you to start that story? Where do you want to start that story?
Back in high school, back
Okay.
at home. So just to jump off of what Rebecca started with, which, so I'm from Northeast Ohio, little town called Conneaut, right up way in the very northeast corner. Go any farther east, you're in Pennsylvania. Go north, you're in the lake.
Yeah.
So, and lived in Northeast Ohio, moved to Madison. While I was in high school in Madison, my grandfather had a couple of strokes, had 2 strokes in 2 years, 18 months, something like that. And he was a farmer, a small town guy, teacher, part-time, did driving instruction, stuff like that, just to make the ends meet. And never had an estate plan of any sort. Had no idea even, I don't even know if he knew what a will was. And so after he had his second stroke, I was going off to college and I would come back every couple months. And my mom, from the just fighting with her siblings, she had 5, she was one of 6. So just fighting with siblings over who's going to get the farm, what are we going to do with it, where's the money coming from. I could see her aging week by week. So kind of at that point, I was like, there's no way I'm going to let this happen to my family. There's no way I'm going to let this happen to my siblings, have any kind of acrimony like that. Like, let's get my parents figured out. And that was my main motivation for wanting to be a lawyer. I was like, I need to know this kind of stuff. I need to know how not to put my family in this sort of position. I wanted to know what I needed to know. It seemed like there was a lot of esoteric stuff out there that really shouldn't have been.
Sure.
So, and then the idea of like, it's not just for my family, it's for any family. Anybody can get into that position. Excuse me. So, did that for a couple, I kind of waffled for a couple years.
Were you studying anything else? Was there something that in college that you were like, oh, I'm going to try this for a little while? Or
yeah, so I got my political science degree, thinking that maybe I was going to do some work and then come back to the lawyer thing later.
Sure.
And then by the end of college, I was like, I don't want to do anything that I had planned already. So I spent a couple years putzing about and then went back to grad school thinking I need to figure out where I'm going at this point, and didn't really have anything going on in grad school. So I started interning with a lawyer back in my hometown. And that kind of rekindled my passion for it because I was sitting in, he did all kinds of stuff, guardianships for people with incapacitated family members, that it's just like they didn't know how to deal with those family members either. He knew everything there was to know about, like, this is what your estate needs to be, this is how you do the guardianship, this is how you talk to the probate court. And I remember one time, so he was all over the place. We were doing a custody hearing, and the there was a big fight between mom and grandma over custody of this kid. And it came out during the trial that grandma thought that mom was going to take the kid and just disappear and never allow grandma to have any contact with the kid, just cut the grandma out of life completely. And mom got very emotional because she didn't know that her mom thought that about her. She thought that there was something else going on. So it was just a very emotional, like, during mom's testimony, she's like, I can't believe that you would think that of me. You raised me. I've known you my entire life. I know you're a lovely person. And the fact that this happened has been the greatest strain on any personal relationship I've ever had. And I mean, lawyer was crying, mom was crying, grandma was crying. I think the judge was even crying. Like, and so I was sitting there, like, knowing already that I wanted to help families out of the issues that they got into already. I was like, that is something that people need help with too, obviously. Like, that showed me an entirely new side of how being an attorney can help you. Not only, it used to be, I thought being an attorney was accomplishing your goals, but I think really being an attorney is helping you get to the place that you need or want to be in life. And that just sort of kindled that passion of, like, I can help people out at some point, some way, somehow. That's finally the thing that I figured out that I want to do.
Right. So you were interning.
Yeah.
You're with this attorney. You're in grad school. What were you studying in grad school at that time?
So grad school, I was doing public administration for my master's degree.
Okay.
There was some part of me that was like, maybe I want to work with municipalities or some sort of, like, be in a public role.
Did you have political aspirations or more administrative aspirations?
I think political aspirations. I think probably looking back on it, a public policy degree would have been better for me because, yeah, like you say, it wasn't quite as administrative as it was political that I wanted. And, I haven't fully given up on any of those kinds of ideas, but I kind of want to get a better sense of where I'm at in the world before I pick a direction and go with it.
So did you just say, hey, mid-grad school, take a left-hand turn and head to law school? Did you finish that up?
I did finish it up. I do have my master's. It was just a 2-year program, and I think I was about a year and a half in when I had that internship and really was like, this settles it. I'm definitely going to law school.
And so this is a lot of very personal stories. A lot of your personal interactions with seeing people go through the worst parts of not having things understood, some of the worst parts of the system. Did you ever see anything that you're like, boy, that really makes me, on a more positive note, that makes me want to be a part of this profession. That makes me want to do this work?
I have been mostly engaged in what a lot of people tell me they perceive as kind of the, I don't know, darker side of law isn't quite right, but, like, I've mostly been engaged in family law and criminal law. So I think that the positive side of it, the optimism, is in finding the best situation that you can out of the bad situations that people get into. Like, I've heard the phrase multiple times. I think it's family law is good people on their worst days, criminal law is bad people on their best days, sort of thing. And there's certainly some truth to it. But it's also like everybody at some point in their life is going to get into a situation that they thought was going to turn out one way, and then it completely turned out some other different kind of way. And I think the positive is in understanding that no matter where you are in life, that can change. And you can, at some point, if you put in the effort and put in the work and find somebody to help you, if that's what you need, you can arrive at a much better place than you've been in.
So how do you personally, Hunter, then? Because you're not on the side of the table doing what we call transactional work, where you're helping deal flow and you're moving deals around or doing estate planning or doing that kind of work. You're on the side that we would call internally litigation.
Right.
How do you handle that kind of conflict? because you're either in a situation where you have a defendant in conflict with the state prosecutor, and the state's bringing the weight of what it has behind it, or you're in a position where you are in conflict between formerly married couple, parenting problems, like you talked about, sometimes multi-generational issues. How do you handle that kind of conflict?
So on a personal level, so let's start with the professional. On a professional level, there's a certain level of distance between you, a disconnect between you and the scenario. And that's what makes you equipped to deal with it. You are not personally, you don't have those stakes in it that the client is going to have. So there's a certain level where you can say, I can make these moves, I can take these risks because I'm not personally affected. Of course, ethical obligations you got to always keep in mind, but on a personal level, I think it's really the key is understanding that like life is multifaceted. Life is endlessly dynamic, and there's no time ever for any given person where life is going to be exactly the same at all times. And having been through what I consider to be very high highs and very low lows in my life, I think it's a matter of perspective and understanding that while you're in conflict now, the goal is to get you to a place where that conflict is minimized or no longer exists for you. So it's really like, I think it's having the right broad perspective of looking at life as not just one track of a train that you're going on, but you're on a highway system and you can go anywhere.
Sure.
And then there's also the aspect of it that is, losing words now.
Words are complicated sometimes.
They are. There's the aspect of it where you have to really understand that you are not always going to get exactly what you want, and there is a middle ground to everything. There's a compromise to everything to be had.
That's good. That's some good perspective. So, college, wandering around a little bit, master's, law school, which, is just a joyous time in people's lives. And now practicing with us. Just joined up with the Newark team, and I know you're working with a multiple crews, but you're working on that litigation side of things. Where are you headed with this? Where is Hunter going with all of this?
That's a really good question that I think about probably every day at this point. And I think that, the problem to having such a broad perspective is that sometimes you think that you can do anything, So I think for now, my focus is pretty narrow. I want to feel comfortable in my job. I feel comfortable with the client side of things, but I think that I really want to get some experience and understand, get a better grip on what that litigation side of things actually looks like. And then at some point, building a practice within the firm, it seems like the best idea that I have so far, and I don't know that at least for now, I can't envision what a better idea would look like.
That's great. Well, obviously, you're in a little bit of a rough situation with an equity partner asking you that question.
That is true.
Being like, no, my plan is to leave in a couple of years. I'm taking off. I'll see you later.
Take you guys for all your worth and get out.
But it's interesting because as we want people to get to know you, and you approached it kind of like several of us in the firm. What we would call non-traditional, law students. You have life experience outside of going from college straight into law school, straight into the practice. Yeah. And so there's an opportunity for people to get to know you in a different way than somebody who legitimately doesn't have any prior life experience outside of this. And so it's important to us to be able to share that kind of stuff. If there was anything that you're like, hey, I want people to know this about me as a practitioner, what would be that thing?
If there was a single thing that I wanted people to know about me as a practitioner, it's that I will do too much and try too hard, sometimes to my own detriment, including spending maybe too much of your money, you and the client, to understand where we're going and to get the best result that there is. There is a certain positive and a negative to that sort of thing. I had the boss's boss, where I was working at grad school, came into the office one day, and he was talking to one person, but he kind of shouted this to the whole office. And he said, where I'm working at is that the perfect is the enemy of the good. And I think about that at least once a week, because I have a tendency to try for the perfect and to get myself lost in the weeds, to walk off into the forest thinking, yeah, I'm going to be able to do this. And then all of a sudden there's no trail underneath my feet anymore. So I think there is a tendency to go for the perfect and sometimes fail. And I think that what I would want people to know about me is that I'm going to try and go for the perfect, and we're going to aim for the good. And we're going to see what we can get you from there.
That's good. That's good. All right, man. That was a really good thing. I hope you understood I kind of slid that in there to get you warmed up and started instead of a formal start. So, Becca, is there anything else you want me to ask Hunter about? Okay. Awesome. Good job, Hunter.
Thank you.